Good evening, church. I don't know if anyone's out there or if anyone's seeing this. I'm at the church. I'm running a live test on our video stream here from the church. I'm just going to kind of take a moment here and see if this is working. I'm watching on my own phone to see if it's working. It looks like I'm there and you can hear me. The picture's not great. I'm just checking this. Okay, I see Holly Brown joined us. Hi, Holly. Um, I'm gonna be here for a minute, and I'm gonna talk to you. And I hope that this live feed will hold up, and that if you're not seeing it live, that sometime before, hopefully Saturday evening, you'll watch this. Hopefully as soon as possible, and I want to just get some information out to you about this weekend. I hope you're having a great week. It's been a long week. We've been dealing with a lot here at the church concerning our weekend service, and that's really what I want to share some things with you about. Um, so I hope you'll bear with me on what I'm going to ask for, as I often do. I'm going to ask for a little bit of time, and if you know me, that little bit can vary. I'm going to ask for a little bit of time, and I'm going to ask for a lot of grace, that you would hear me, that you would give me again some grace. I don't have a script. I have a lot of thoughts in my heart that I want to share with you, but I'm just going to kind of share with you without a plan here, and hopefully I don't get too far off course. So as people come in, again, if you're seeing this live or if you see this recorded, I hope everyone will listen to this message really concerning church this weekend. I'm coming to you. It's Friday evening. We are going to open the church for service this Sunday morning, which is Mother's Day. We're going to open the church, and it's not without a lot of discussion and a lot of prayer, a lot of talk amongst the leadership of the church that we've made this decision. And I just want to talk a little bit about what's going into that decision. I also want to talk a little bit about just how we're going to move forward from here on out. And we don't know what the time frame is. This could be an extended period. We knew when we came back to church that it was going to be a modified service. We knew that. We knew it was going to look different, and it could be that way for a while. Um, so I just want to talk to you for a minute, and I'll start with this. As I said, we are going to open the doors for church this Sunday. We have read the directives coming out of our governor's office, out of the state. We've read them. We've looked over them carefully. We've looked over them again in the last 24 hours. I have been in daily contact with the president of our board. The president of our board in the last 24 hours reached out to every one of the board members, discussed the situation, got their feedback, and there were a lot of questions, a lot of concerns, but the decision was made unanimously by the leadership of the church that we would hold service. Again, we will hold service in the sanctuary this Sunday under the stipulation that we do everything possible to adhere to the guidelines from the governor and everything possible to ensure safety for everyone that comes into the church. Now, right now, if you're just joining me, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're listening. Again, I want you to know we're going to meet this Sunday, but I want to talk to you all. I have some things on my heart that I need to share with you. So please stay with us. If you can't catch us all now, just come back to it, whatever it is. But I want you to hear this. I need you to hear this. We are going to meet this Sunday. We've gone through a lot to get to this decision. So it's not lightly that we enter into this, but we want you to know what it is that we've done to this point and what we hope to do moving forward. If you've already said, I'm not going to be there, I don't think we should be there, and you're about ready to turn this off, I need you to stick with me. If you're so excited because the doors are going to be open and you're going to go lay out your clothes right now, I know, don't do that yet. I need you to stick right here, and I need you to hear me out before you get excited and make your plans and get out your hat for Mother's Day or whatever the situation is. I need you to stick with me. First of all, if you are planning to come on Sunday to church, I want you to know that we're doing everything we can to ensure safety, to meet the guidelines from the governor. If you can see behind me in the pews, we have marked off every other pew. to help force some space and some distance within the sanctuary. We have made plans. We've talked to our greeters. We are not handing out bulletins. We are not passing offering plates. We're not going to be shaking hands at the door with the greeters. We've removed all the pew Bibles and all the hymnals. We've removed those temporarily from the pews, just to again make sure there's less things that we can touch and maybe cross contaminate anything like that. We have signs around the building reminding us to maintain social distancing. We have hand sanitizers throughout the building. We have Kleenexes throughout the building to make those things available. I'm asking you, if you plan to attend the service, I am asking you to wear a mask. Again, this goes with the governor's directives that we would wear masks and that we would maintain proper social distancing. Even though he has made it clear that religious services, there are no limitations on number of people that can be in a religious service at this point. So we're in compliance with the guidelines from the governor. We know that the governor is seeking out the best medical experts that he can. We know that there are wide-ranging opinions in medical fields and scientific fields. We know that, and I'm sure the decision he came to was not an easy one, but the decision was made to allow churches to meet, and we are going to meet this Sunday. Now, with that said, I want to speak really to us as a body right now. We are going to open our doors on Sunday for service. But I believe that from this point forward, for the next several weeks and months, our services and our gatherings are going to look quite different. And I fully expect, as your pastor, that there are some people right now that are not comfortable with the decision for us to meet in the sanctuary. I understand that. I know that. With that said, there's a couple things I want to remind you of. If you have any concerns whatsoever about safety, about being in a public gathering, I highly recommend and I encourage you to not attend the service. Now, the reason I'm here live on Facebook is we're attempting to make some upgrades and some changes so we can hopefully broadcast our service live on Sunday morning so that those who aren't able to be in the service can still worship with us and be a part of the fellowship. Throughout this time, and whether it's, again, I think it's going to be a lengthy period. I don't think it's going to be weeks. I think it's going to be months that people will gradually start to feel more comfortable, and people are going to get there at different times and for different reasons. People are going to feel comfortable going along, and because of that, we want to do everything we can to be able to meet while following safety guidelines, and yet make those who aren't able to be with us still a part of the body. So let me say this again, and I'm going to hit you a couple of different ways with this. If you are in a high risk group, everyone knows what that is by now, but if you're in a high risk group, I recommend that you would stay home. If you are concerned at all, I recommend that you stay home. If maybe you feel comfortable coming, but the rest of your family doesn't, I recommend that you sit down as a family, pray about it, and make the decision that's best for your family. Now, it's come to my attention over the last several days as we've gone through this and we've talked to the board. And as I said, I've talked to our board president daily, and the board has discussed this. I know that there are people in the church right now that don't agree with our decision to meet. And I want to just address that a couple of ways. I don't think the standard for the church and for the body of Christ is that we have 100% agreement at all times on all things. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think 100% agreement on this issue is realistic at all. The number of opinions, the number of expert opinions and the data, I can show you. For every one thing you show me, I can show you 10 that say the exact opposite thing. Some say, we should never not leave our houses again until there's a vaccine. Some say we should have never done social distancing to begin with. And I know, based on what you've personally experienced during this time, we have people in healthcare fields. We have people that have seen firsthand the devastation of this terrible virus. I absolutely understand that they have reservations about gathering together at this time. 100% understand that. And I know there's other people that haven't experienced any of that, and probably don't maybe understand or agree with all the measures that have been put in place, and I understand that as well. What I would say is this, and I'll go back to what I said just a second ago. I don't expect that we're going to have 100% agreement on this issue, but I do expect that we will have 100% unity. And there's a difference. We don't have to be in agreement to be unified. An issue like this could stand to divide us if we're not careful. Now, what I would tell you is this: earlier this week, when the government brought out his new guidelines and he published the recommendations, and he made it clear, hey, if you're a church, you can meet. When he did that, he also said point blank, we are casting, we're shining a light on the church, and we're going to kind of watch the church and see how they do. We're using the church as a test case. Now, I don't know exactly what he meant by that. I do know this: there's probably people out there right now that are waiting for the church to fail. There's people out there that are hoping that there will be outbreaks in churches. There are people that are just hoping that an issue like this, where some people think we should go and some people think we shouldn't go, that this will divide the church. I know that there's people out in the world that would look at us that way. Now, nevertheless, the governor shined a spotlight on us, and I'm glad he did. And I think it's a huge opportunity for not just our church, but the body of Christ. And I've been saying that all week. This is great. This is great. The governor shined a light. He told everyone, look at the church. We're going to watch the church and see what happens. And all week I've been saying this is a great opportunity for us, but it's only been in the last 24 hours that I realized what the opportunity was. The opportunity is this: that in a church of 170 people, not all of us are going to agree, but we will be unified. And we can be unified and not agree. We don't agree on a lot of things. Let's face it. We don't agree on the songs we should sing. We don't agree on the whether that you put the toilet paper like over the roll or under the roll. We don't agree on that. We don't agree on the color of the wallpaper. We don't agree a whole bunch of things. We know that. That's always been true. We don't agree on politics. We don't agree on sports. We don't agree on a lot of things. And I think it's okay right now at this moment in time that there are people in this church that think we should not open our doors, and there are people in this church that think we should open our doors, and we're not in agreement on that, and that's okay. But we can still be, and I absolutely expect that we will be unified. We will love one another. We will not look down on one another. We will not look at the people on the other side of the issue and say they don't get it, they don't know what they're doing. Let me give you a couple of examples. If you feel like you shouldn't be here, and really what I would ask you to do is I'd ask you to do this in the next 24 hours leading up to Sunday morning. I'd ask you to sit down. If you're single, spend some time in prayer, ask the Lord for wisdom and discernment, ask him to speak to your heart. If you have a family, sit down, husband, wife, sit down with your kids, talk about it, pray about it, make a decision. If in the process you're praying and you're saying, God, give me wisdom, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to go to church, or am I not supposed to go to church? When God speaks to you, and let's say God says, you shouldn't go to church, you need to stay home. When that happens, I believe what you should do is stay home. But you can't then look at the people that go to church and say, hey, they didn't hear it. I heard it from God clearly. They got it wrong. They shouldn't be in church. No, because when you ask God for wisdom and discernment, that was for you. And so you make that decision. Now, on the other side, you sit down, you pray, you as a family, you talk about it, and you say, you know what? We want to go to church. And the Lord's given us a peace that we need to go to church. Okay. But you cannot look at the people that stayed home and said they didn't hear from God because I heard from God and I got it straight from him that I need to be in church. They missed it. That's not the case. That word was for you. Okay? Here's another example. If you say, we've prayed and we feel like as a family we should go to church. On your way to church, and when you get here on Sunday morning, you look around and you start counting and you say, look at all these people that didn't have enough faith to come to church. I will not accept that. Point blank, end of story. I will not accept hearing that at all. If I start to hear that, I will not let it go. In fact, I promise you this: I've preached my last sermon from that pulpit. If that's the case, I won't do it. That's not who we are. So it's not a sign of lack of faith or that you're acting in fear if you don't come to church. And I will not allow anyone to say that. It won't fly. But the exact opposite is true as well. If you stay at home and if you say, "Hey, you know what? The best thing for our family is to stay at home at this time." And while you're sitting at home, you're going, "Look at all those wacko cuckoo Christians that are the type of nutbag Christians that think they can walk down the street blindfolded into traffic and not get hit by a truck because God's going to protect them." I will not allow that. That's not what's going on here. It is perfectly reasonable that two saved, born again, spirit filled Christians can ask the Lord for discernment on this issue, and one be given a peace about going to church, and the other be given a peace about not going to church, and for us to still be in complete unity as a body. And extend it beyond our doors. I know that there's a lot of churches in town, and I don't think, we might be the only one opening our doors this week, and that's okay. And we're going to look to the other churches, and we completely understand. I've talked to some of the pastors. We completely understand that they have reasons for making the decisions they've made. We're not going to look down on them. We're not going to say that they're wrong. We're not going to say that they lack faith. That's not the case. They're making decisions that are best for their body and best for their church. And we, as the universal body of church, are going to love them, and we're going to stand behind them. Okay? But we as a church, our leadership, our board, our president, we have talked, we have prayed, and we've made the decision we're going to come to church on Sunday. I'm excited to be in here. But I want to tell you this. The other thing that's come to my attention is this, that there are people that are saying, we don't feel comfortable coming, but we feel like we need to support leadership. So if the doors are open, we feel like we need to be there. I want to tell you, and all I can do is ask you to take me at my word. The best thing you can do to support me as your pastor right now, and the best thing you can do to support our board and the leadership team that has come to this decision, is if you have a conviction in your heart that you shouldn't be here, the best thing you can do is stay home. And I do not say that in any way in anger or judgment. I say it in 100% love and care and concern for you as your pastor. How many times from this pulpit have I said, don't take my word from it. You get into the word. You ask God for wisdom. You ask God for discernment. Don't take my word for it. It's the same thing here. If I say to you, the doors are open, you ask God. You ask for discernment. And the best thing you can do to me as your pastor to show me that you've been listening over the last couple years is to exercise that discernment and to say, you know what? We don't think we should be there this week, and so we're going to stay home. But that makes you no less part of this church, and it doesn't make the people that are here, it doesn't mean they have greater faith. It means that there are people in different places right now in this global pandemic. That's what it means. And a week from now, there's going to be people in different places. And 2 weeks from now, there's going to be people in different places. And it's going to be like that for a while. So the opportunity for here for us as the body of Christ is this. The governor shined the spotlight on us. He said, we're going to watch the church. We're going to see what happens in the church. The opportunity for us is not to fill these pews and say, hey, we don't care about what's going on out there. That's not the case. We absolutely care what's going on. And we know that there are people hurting and suffering. We know that there are people losing lives, losing jobs, losing income. We know that. We absolutely care about what's going on. But we also take it as a privilege that we can come in this place. And we know that there are people that are at risk with their health, and there are people because of their age, and there are people because of where they work. Maybe if you've been around someone that's sick, stay home. It's okay. It's okay. My pastor in Virginia always used to say, and I've stolen this line, I've said it to you before. He always used to say that church doesn't necessarily have to be a comfortable place, but it has to be a safe place. So that means, hey, when you walk through these doors, it's not my job to make you comfortable with everything going on in your life. You might have something going on. You might have an area of sin that you haven't addressed in your heart, that you need to ask for forgiveness. And when you sit down and the word's preached and something convicts you and you're like, this isn't comfortable, my toes are getting stepped on, that's okay. That should happen in church. That should happen at some point for all of us. And that's fine. So church doesn't necessarily have to be a comfortable place, but it needs to be a safe place. It needs to be a place where we can come in and we can deal with conviction on our hearts, where we can ask for forgiveness and we can repent and turn from our sin. It needs to be a place where we can deal with emotional issues. It needs to be a place where we can deal with spiritual issues. It needs to be a safe place where we can talk to one another and love one another and help one another through those times. And not just that it needs to be a safe place emotionally or a safe place spiritually, but it also needs to be a safe place physically. And we take that very seriously. We know in the last year or so we've put different measures in place for our safety, and we want this to be as safe a place as it can possibly be. But we also know this: there are no guarantees in this life. We know that whatever we do, whether it's in relation to the coronavirus, whether it's in relation to relationship to the physical security of our building, we can do everything that we can do, and yet there are no guarantees when it comes to our safety. There are risks in this life, and there are troubles, and there are trials, and there are tribulations. And for some people right now, coming to church on Sunday, is there risk in it? Yes. But you're comfortable with that risk, and it's acceptable. And for some people right now, it's not an acceptable risk. And it shouldn't be, because you have health concerns, because of your age, because of where you work, because you've already been around some people that are sick. Whatever the situation is, again, use that discernment and exercise that. We want the church to be a safe place, but we also know that we can't guarantee 100% safety under any circumstances, under the best of circumstances. So again, I would say this: church needs to be it needs to be a safe place. Doesn't necessarily need to be a comfortable place. If you're right now, I'm gung-ho, I'm going to be there at church, but there's no way I'm wearing a mask because I'm not comfortable wearing a mask. I'm going to say this: you don't have to be comfortable, so wear a mask. And if you're saying, I really want to be there but I don't want to wear a mask, I'm going to ask you to consider staying home. If you don't feel like you can wear a mask to help the other people in the building feel safe, then I would ask you to stay home until you can either wear a mask or until such a time where we're not being recommended to wear masks. And these are the decisions that individuals are going to have to make. And yet I want us to know that because we're making different decisions, because we're in different places, and because we all have different comfort levels right now, it does not mean we're not unified. It does not mean we're not church. I think this is the greatest opportunity for us. It's to show that we can open our doors. We don't always agree, but yet we know that we are one in the body of Christ. We are one. We love each other. We don't give in to arguments. We don't give in to disagreements. It's okay. We can have healthy discussions. We can talk about where we are in this issue, but that doesn't mean we aren't unified. I'm gonna wrap this up. Like I said, I didn't have a script for this. This is just some things I wanted to share from you. I would ask this: um, if you're on Facebook, but you know someone at the church that's not on Facebook, could you reach out to them and talk to them about this? At deacons and deaconesses, could you call your people and contact them and share some of this information with them? Let everyone know that we absolutely love them. I'm gonna close with this. The same thing that I said to my wife. I've had this conversation with my wife every day this week. I've said, honey, I love you. You're beautiful. And whatever you decide to do on Sunday, I 100% support you. If you decide that you and the kids need to stay home, I support you in that. If you decide you want to go to your mom and dad's house and try to keep them home and watch the service with them, I 100% support that. If that's what you think is best, I'm in total agreement with you and I support you. And I want to close saying that to the church. Listen, church, I love you. Not the same way I love my wife, but I love you. You're beautiful. Some of us desperately need those hair salons to open up, but you're still beautiful. And I 100% support you in whatever decision you make. And please don't feel some sort of burden to be here in order to support me, to stand by me if you don't feel comfortable being here. I absolutely ask